The movement for Telangana has to be understood in two different aspects. One, the mass movement, people fighting for a separate state with the demands, with the aspirations, with the staunch understanding for the own state to rule for themselves. This is from the side of the people, the mass movement. But come to the other aspect, any mass movement cannot be translated into reality unless and until it has to undergo some process. What is a process? In the case of Telangana formation, Telangana is a state. It has to be formed as a state. So, it has to undergo the political process of constitution. Means the constitutional process means the debates in the legislative bodies, debates, act and everything has to be undertaken. And in this aspect, there is an important role for the political parties. Political parties are very important, crucial in shaping up the understanding of the people also. At the same time, they are very important in making the demands or converting the demands into reality. If political parties are not in favor of any demand, if they are opportunistic or if they are adamant, if they are not in favor of any demand, the people's movement cannot achieve the ultimate goal of making the state as a reality. Telangana demand has undergone such changes starting from 1952 or 1957, 56 you can say. So, for 52 is the first agitation for Mulki. In that Mulki agitation itself, there was an inherent demand for Telangana. But 1956, with the merger with Andhra, Telangana has it lost its identity and it is part of United Andhra Pradesh. As we all know, from this period onwards, again till the last phase of our movement, there were different phases where mass movements were happening with less intensity and high intensity. 69 was high intensity and 52 was a limited one. And before 69, 68 or 60s, early 60s or post 1969, before 2000, small level activism was there. So all these things are part of mass movement. But what about the political parties which are representing the people in the parliament, are representing the people in assembly? So these parties play a crucial role in making the Telangana dream a reality. So in this topic, today we will be discussing about the role of political parties in the entire period starting from 1952 till the end with different variations. Though we are dealing the topic as a whole, we will be culminating till the process, means 2014 bill also. So this is like a overview of the political parties with regard to Telangana. So we will be discussing about the role, discussing about the stands of the political parties taken in different periods. First the Congress, then Telugudesam, Bharatiya Janata Party, Communist Party of India, Communist Party of India Marxist, then Majlis Ittihadul Muslimin, that we call it as MIM, and Prajarajyam, YSR Congress Party, Lok Satta. Why we haven't chosen or why we are talking about the stands of these political parties? It's because they were representing the people in the assembly. They were attending the all party meetings or representing whenever there is a demand or in the final stage the bill, these people were voting in favor or against. So we are talking about the political parties which represented in these things. Apart from this, there are many smaller political parties like Ale Narendra started a political party, Telangana Sadhana Samiti, and Indra Reddy started a political party, Vijay Shanti started political party, Talli Telangana, Devendra Gaud started Nava Telangana. All these political parties, though they were started initially, they merged or just disappeared over a period of time. So I am not going to deal with those political parties because they are part of the larger political activism. For example, some political parties are merging with other parties, like Nava Telangana merging with our Prajarajyam. Then Narendra's party merging with TRS. So we are not going to talk about those parties. We are going to discuss about these parties which I have talked about. So first we have to talk about role of Congress. Before starting the role of Congress, I would like to generalize the whole phenomena like political parties, why they change stands or why they take stands first. First of all, their stands are based on their political gains or their political limitations or their political opportunism. What do you mean by gains? For example, if Telangana is granted, this party or my party will be gaining, so definitely I will support. If limitations are there, like for example, if I am going to grant or if I am going to support Telangana at this juncture, my support base will erode, so I will not talk about it. I will keep it in the back burner. And some parties, when they had an opportunism, when they had an opportunity, like if I am going to support Telangana demand now, I will get votes. Then they have supported. Again, went back to the original Samaikandra demand. So like this, their understanding, their genesis, their formation, their strength and their opportunism, their limitations, all these things will get translated into actions whenever there is a demand for Telangana. Telangana is a victim of political parties, I would like to say, because whenever the movement was at its peak, as we have seen 1969 movement, Telangana Praja Samiti was there, which has to spearhead the movement, but because of the opportunism, because of the limitation and opportunism, because of the upper hand of Congress, the political process is completely scuttled or disrupted at that point of time. So this is the generalization for all the political parties, whatever it is. So I am not going to talk about TRS in this chapter because TRS will be discussing separately, because TRS genesis or its origin or its birth is for Telangana. And again, there are many shifts and turns, different periods when TRS was sailing high, when TRS was in a what you call good position to control or steer the parliamentary process. At times, it was at its lowest ebb. So that part, that is TRS role in Telangana formation, will be dealt in a separate topic. The rest of the parties will be dealt in this topic. So first, let's talk about Congress. Everyone say it is Congress which is responsible for giving or not giving. Yeah, it's true. In the last phase of the movement, Keshav Rao, then he was in Congress, he was saying in all the political meetings, in Telugu he used to say, Telangana ivakunte, Telangana techedi meme, ichedi meme, tekunte chachedi meme. Means, if at all Telangana has to be granted, it is we who has to grant or we have to initiate the process of Telangana. If you don't give Telangana, if that means if Congress is not giving Telangana, if Congress is not supporting the Telangana demand, Congress will disappear. This is what he was talking about. It's true to some extent. The Telangana statehood demand was there since 1952 in a lowest mode, but come 69, it is the highest point. Then again 2000, the new phase. In entire period, which party was at the helms of affairs? Means it was in power, it is Congress. Whether it is center or state, we see the role of Congress in the process of Telangana formation. In 1956, Congress was responsible for the merger with Andhra. Though there were murmuring, though there were protests, though there were dissent, though there were representations, Congress forcibly merged with Andhra because of their limitations, as we have discussed long back in another chapter, merger with Andhra, Nehru's compulsions and Andhra lobby and Telangana's feeble voices together, put together, Telangana and some innocence and some good intention that we all together in one state will grow. All these things resulted in Andhra Pradesh formation. So 1956, the Congress was responsible for the merger, and 56 to 69, again, there were no protest from the Congress leadership. Though a few people, Telangana Congress leaders, were pointing out, they were pointing out to that particular issue, but they are not talking in a broad way, saying that Telangana is becoming a victim, Telangana is victimized, or Telangana's interests are lost. They are not saying like that. Only at times they are talking related to some issues. So the Congress party cannot justify that the violations or the injustice meted out between 56 and 69, they are also responsible because their government was there in the center and state. Next, Indira Gandhi. If we have to talk about Congress role, the major period is Indira Gandhi period. Indira Gandhi, a strong woman, a strong leader of Congress, emerged in late 60s as a strong leader of Congress and ruled till 84. In the entire period, she was never in favor of Telangana demand. And a big no to Telangana was her motto. For that, to stop giving Telangana, you can go to any extent. Means you can bring 8-point formula, 6-point formula or 5-point formula or anything. You can mend rules, you can bring some new things. But Telangana state will not be granted. That was her stand. In 1969, again, suppression of the whole movement was done by Congress government. Though the leadership is Andhra leadership, what happened to the Telangana leadership? They could have protested. No resignations. If you see the entire period, whenever the Andhra interests are lost, leadership, that is Congress leadership from Andhra, they were resigning or protesting or trying to bring some constitutional crisis. But in Telangana, it was not happening. This is the biggest lacuna from Telangana side in the entire period. They were in the positions, they did not resign and they are not pressurizing the high command. On the other side, Andhra lobby was completely pressurizing the high command. If at all they are not heeding to their requests or heeding to their demands, they are resigning and pushing the central government to listen to them. So, 69 movement was completely suppressed and formulas were brought in and Telangana Praja Samiti was merged. So, all these things are anti-Telangana acts only. And post 1969, Telangana Congress leaders, they could not influence their high command. For example, 69 onwards, TPS was merged. Now, all the people who were taking or who got the votes in the name of Telangana were into Congress. But did they raise the voice? No. They were completely flowing in the stream. They are not against the tide. They are not fighting the things happening. And though they got votes from Telangana demand is in the back burner again. We have seen how Telangana demand was curtailed by bringing in new identities like Telugu Talli or Telugu Mahasabhalu and complete new forms of colonization. All these things are happening. So, nothing was happening in this entire period from Congress leadership side or at least a major section of Congress side. So, what is happening? Telangana is not becoming a reality because of Congress till 1969 and come 2000. This is the last phase I am talking. 11th August 2000, 41 Congress legislators represented to Sonia Gandhi saying that we want separate Telangana. This is not completely their initiative. Some people outside the Congress, like the people who were from Suryapet Declaration, the people who started Telangana Vidyavantula Vedika, or some of the people like V. Prakash are inspired by Kottapalli Jayashankar, Professor Jayashankar. All these people were making some efforts to force Telangana Congress leaders to demand Telangana. So, 11th August 2000, 41 Congress legislators submitted a memorandum to Sonia Gandhi, and this act or this initiative was led by P. Janardhan Reddy. Janardhan Reddy, an MLA from Hyderabad, a strong votary of Telangana. He was very vocal. He was an opponent of Rajshekar Reddy, Y.S. Rajshekar Reddy. Y.S. Rajshekar Reddy or some of the Congress leaders were taking the other stand. Or you can talk about Chandrababu Naidu, all these periods. He was completely supporting Telangana whenever there is a debate in assembly. So, P. Janardhan Reddy, a strong votary of Telangana, was the person who was active in this signature campaign. And Chinna Reddy, another Congress leader from Mahbubnagar district, was active. So, 2000 memorandum is very, very important. Again, 2001, Telangana Congress Forum was constituted. Telangana Congress Forum. It is not another party. This Telangana Congress Forum is inside the Congress itself. The leaders of Telangana Congress are forming as a forum to discuss the issue of Telangana inside the party, not outside the party. So, this Telangana Congress Forum was started or initiated by Chinna Reddy, and Palvai Govardhan Reddy also played an important role in this Telangana Congress Forum. Then come 2004 elections. In 2004 elections, Y.S. Rajshekar Reddy formed an alliance with TRS. Alliance with TRS and Telangana demand for the first time in history is entering into the central agenda, that is UPA's Common Minimum Program. This Common Minimum Program, they were talking for having some guidelines for the government. UPA was a coalition, many parties are there. In this many parties coalition, they should have some common agenda. This common agenda is nothing but Common Minimum Program, we call it as CMP. And the CMP, first time they have mentioned about Telangana. The UPA government will consider the demand for the formation of Telangana state at an appropriate time after due consultations and consensus. See the statement very, very keenly. The UPA government will consider, they haven't completely given, they are considering still, the demand for the formation of Telangana state at an appropriate time. What do you mean by appropriate time? Many things, if you have to understand appropriate time, it includes many things, including their own interests, including their own busy things, like if some elections are there outside the state, outside somewhere, and Congress High Command will be focusing on elections, so Telangana demand will not be talked for a few months. If there is any crisis in the party, again they will not talk about Telangana for a few months, like that. Appropriate time, if you take it in a correct spirit, it is a constitutional, means appropriate times means the parliamentary process or the debate should be happening. But it is not the appropriate time in terms of constitution, it is in terms of polity. Their leisure or their busy schedules make the appropriate time to come, unless and until we force it. Remember this aspect. Due consultations and consensus. See, the demand is a very tough demand. Means Telangana is demanding a separate state. Andhra or Rayalaseema together, the erstwhile Andhra state, are not for separation. So, where do you get the consensus? Why you add this consultations and consensus? And it's highly impossible to get consensus on this issue. So, UPA's Common Minimum Program has a provision saying that we will discuss, we will consider the issue of Telangana. This is the first time. And it was included in the presidential speech when APJ Abdul Kalam was the president. He addressed the joint parliamentary session. See, president addressing the joint session is it's a tradition. When the president addressed in his presidential address in the parliament, he declared the intentions of UPA, that is the coalition government under Congress, led by Congress, about considering the issue of Telangana. This is the first time you are getting into central activity. Then comes the role of Congress in terms of how they are acting upon the demand. First, they have kept in the Common Minimum Program, and TRS joined the party at the central and state level also, part of the coalition. There were ministers, 2 people were the ministers in the center, and 4 plus people were there, ministers in the state, in YSR cabinet, and their Manmohan Singh cabinet, and time is lapsing. Nothing was done. So, in this period, again with the force, when TRS, KCR, all these people resigned from the central cabinet and forcing the Congress to think or talk about Telangana demand, then a committee known as Pranam Mukherjee committee was appointed. This Pranam Mukherjee committee has to look into the aspect like the Telangana demand and other states' demand. Other states are also demanding, like what are the other states which are demanding separate statehood? One is Vidarbha. This is very old demand, starting from 1950s. Like Telangana, Vidarbha demand is decades old. The other demands like Bundelkhand, this is the modern period I am talking about, that is 2004. In 2004, you have new demands like Bundelkhand, Vidarbha, then Harit Pradesh, means merging the areas from western UP, parts of Haryana and Rajasthan into some western UP, a Jat peasant dominant demand. Means Jat peasants will get benefited out of this Harit Pradesh, carving out from the different states where Jats are in the upper hand, where Jats are in the what you call, they have a say in the governance. In Haryana, they have their say. So in UP, they don't have that say. So if Harit Pradesh is created, this agriculturist group will be dominant. That is why Harit Pradesh demand is coming. Then Bundelkhand, a backward region. Telangana, of course, you know. Then Vidarbha, a very old demand. And there is another demand for a separate state in Darjeeling Hills, Gurkhaland. So all these demands are there. So keeping in view all these demands, UPA government has constituted a committee which is known as Pranam Mukherjee committee with Raghuvamsha Prasad Singh, the RJD leader, and the Minister of Communications, that is Dayanidhi Maran from DMK. Dayanidhi Maran and Raghuvamsha Prasad Singh, and these two are members headed by Pranam Mukherjee as the chairman of the committee. So this committee was declared, but it did not function. It did not function means they did not give the report thoroughly. So that committee is a what you call it, it is non-starter, or you can say that it did not fulfill its promise, or it did not achieve anything. So Pranab Mukherjee committee always talked about in this period, some of the Pranab Mukherjee committee is writing letters to the parties to give their opinions. TDP could not give. TDP could not give and other parties gave, but Congress is also not giving their opinion. This is another important aspect with Congress. Congress always waited for the what you call opinions of other parties and said, once you have the opinion of other parties, first you tell, because we are in the governance, we will tell our opinion later. So that what you call advantage they have taken for being in the position, and they never spelt thoroughly because they don't want to lose the votes or base in the other part of the United Andhra Pradesh. Telangana will be happy, but other part will kick out Congress from their land. That is their fear. So they were very opportunistic in that sense. Again come 2009 elections. This 2009 elections, 12th February 2009, a new committee was formed, that is Roshaya committee, because this is February and in the May you will be having elections. So again, when election season comes, you will have the Telangana demand, and parties are very active, whether they have to take a decision or what. So we can see this as an opportunism. Last 5 years they did not do anything, but come 2009, before the next elections in May, Roshaya committee was formed. This Roshaya committee was formed in 2009 by Y.S. Rajshekar Reddy. This YSR government has declared that forthcoming elections, see before that they were giving terms of reference, like too many points. They were talking about the demand of Hyderabad. They were talking about the economic aspects, like what will happen to mines. All these things this committee has to, Roshaya committee has to study, if at all you want to divide. And they were talking about Maoism. If a new state is granted, whether Maoism will become more prominent or what. This is the terms of reference they were giving for Roshaya committee. So this committee was having 4 members from Telangana, 3 members from Andhra, except Akbaruddin Owaisi, all are Congress people. So this committee is a most dominant Congress committee and not a committee with other parties also. Like we have seen Pranab Mukherjee committee having 2 people from different regions. One is from Bihar, RJD, the other is from Tamil Nadu, and Pranab Mukherjee is the chairman as the minister in the cabinet. So there is some diversity, and here in this aspect, all congressmen sitting and talking about it except Akbaruddin Owaisi from MIM. So many other parties were sent letters, but they rejected to join this Roshaya committee, because this is, you are talking before 2009 elections. This is nothing but you are trying to make a political opportunity out of it. That is what they felt, so they did not join. And finally, Roshaya committee could not yield any result also, because they were not serious about getting the results. So next, Congress has a strong leader for 5+ years, that is Y.S. Rajshekar Reddy. 5.5 years as 5 years and 3 months as CM, and before that also as the Congress president. He has a great say in the party. So Y.S. Rajshekar Reddy's opposition to Telangana was known from the beginning. He was dishonest when he is making an alliance with TRS. He was dishonest because if you have to ask for votes in Telangana, that too in 2004, there was a bloody violence because of the suppression unleashed in the village side. Maoists are there and police is there. And in this background, there was much violence, there was much blood spilling out in the streets, in the villages. So people are not happy with the things, how they are going on. So in Telangana, if we have to be in the race, YSR thought that we should go along with the people's pulse. That is why they were talking about all these things. So many points of reference, and Rajshekar Reddy was having a serious problem with Telangana from the beginning. Only an opportunity call during elections. So immediately after the elections, again he took a U-turn and he was not talking about Telangana. There were many heated debates in Telangana Assembly, and he was completely scuttling the debate, or he was threatening the speakers, and he did not answer. So this was the position of YSR, that is Y.S. Rajshekar Reddy, with regard to Telangana. 2009, the anti-Telangana campaign, he started from Nandyala. There were 2 phases of elections. First phase completed in Telangana. Second phase is Rayalaseema and Andhra. He took this opportunity, and till the date the poll in Telangana is over, he did not utter a single word against Telangana openly. But immediately on the next day itself, Telangana elections, the first round elections in Telangana are over. So there are no elections in Telangana. The next elections are in Coastal Andhra, Rayalaseema. Immediately you can see his opportunistic stand. What he said was, if you heed to the demand of Telangana, we, means Andhra people or the Rayalaseema people, has to take visa and go to Telangana. He was threatening, and this consistent campaign was running throughout his campaign, posing Congress victory versus Telangana movement. You can see this is the thing they are doing. So Mahakutami was formed in 2009 with Chandrababu Naidu, TRS and other parties. 2004 Mahakutami, it was Congress plus TRS plus other parties. So whenever he was making Mahakutami or making some compromises, it was to hide his real intentions. But very interestingly, immediately after he won the elections of 2009, immediately he took a clear stand against Telangana. He tried to weaken the party, that is TRS, which is spearheading its agitation for Telangana. So he tried to bring in many people into his party. Bribing people into his party to weaken TRS. That is what he was doing. So TRS weakening was a target in the last months of YSR rule. That was called as Operation Akash, that beginning. So YSR was anti-Telangana in his entire thing. His tirade in assembly was also well known. So this is the position, because I have spoken about YSR because YSR was the person who was a strong leader in Congress, who was deciding the things. He is the ears and eyes of the High Command too. So this was the position YSR held. Next comes Roshaya as CM. YS Rajshekar Reddy died in the helicopter accident on September 2nd, 2009. Immediately Roshaya became the chief minister. And Roshaya, not a politically, a strong man like YSR, but he was there as the chief minister, and he did whatever he has to do to scuttle or to deprive Telangana people their protests and their demand. So what is happening? Roshaya as CM, he was the one who was arresting KCR when KCR undertook fast. in the all-party meeting occurred in all-party meeting arranged on 7th December, Congress was a divided house. Roshaya was a CVM, but Congress was a divided house after this 2009. On 7th all-party meeting, all the parties except one or two, they gave clear-cut opinion about Telangana, yes or no. Congress did not give because they said, we are the ones who are organizing it. So, we will give our opinion late. So, Roshaya as CM, again suppression of the movement for the year he was staying in power. Compulsions of Sonia we can see in this entire period. Sonia Gandhi was having some compulsions because it is an alliance, you can't go out of it. The threat to the central government was there. So, state government or state leadership was completely in the hands of Andhra rulers, and central government, the situation is very fluid. There were many compulsions for Sonia Gandhi. Then Kiran Kumar Reddy opposed Telangana many times in the assembly. He threatened directly, I will not give a single penny to Telangana, go whatever, wherever you want to go. Go talk to anyone, whoever you want to. This was the threat he was openly declaring in the assembly. So, Kiran Kumar Reddy was anti-Telangana. Andhra Congress under him was taking up the tirade against Telangana movement. So, in assembly, when the bill was introduced for the opinion, not for voting, remember, the assembly need not take voting. Assembly can give the opinions to the president because he has sent the bill, president sending the bill to discuss in the assembly. So, finally, if we have to talk, the entire period, there are some bright spots too. In the last phase, from December 2009, till the declaration, the Congress MPs, 8 Congress MPs, as we know, Ponnam Prabhakar, Komatreddy Rajagopal Reddy, Manda Jagannatham, Vivek, Madhu Yashki, Gutta Sukhender Reddy, Sirsila Rajaya, Suresh Shetkar, all these people were trying their level best in the parliament to pressurize Sonia Gandhi or to pressurize the parliament to grant Telangana. Apart from this, Rajya Sabha member Keshav Rao, K. Keshav Rao, who joined TRS later, central ministers from Telangana, that is Jaipal Reddy, S. Jaipal Reddy, a senior most leader in Congress, Sarve Satyanarayana, member from Cantonment, Balram Nayak, these 3 members were in the central cabinet. So, they played an important role with their limitations. So, to sum up, Congress has taken many courses of action, like limitations, it was expressed. They were opportunistic at times when it is not helping their victories or when it is not helping their main interests. So, this is the role of Congress in entire Telangana formation period.